Okay, hello everyone. Good day, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you may be. Um, Hello to all the venerables at Empty Cloud. Uh, Thank you for having me. Also, I'd like to thank both Bhante Sudaso and Ayasoma for this opportunity to be here with you all. So I'm just going to give it a minute or two. I know we all live very busy lives and we can't always make it on time. So let's just give it another few minutes, and I'll be looking in the chat right now, and just to say hello to people. So yes, Venerable Medico, yes, thank you so much. Who else? Hello to Karen and Manal and Kumu and Sud, Jayanta. Oh, a lot of familiar names here. No, a lot of familiar names. So we're just standing by a little bit to give people an opportunity. So far, there's 19 people watching. Oh, more people here. We have Rick. Hello. Usha. Hello. Hello to everyone out there. So I'll just give one more minute and then we'll begin. One more minute. So we're going to start off with some meditation in the beginning. So for those of you that are already here, just find a comfortable spot, get into your meditation posture as we get ready to begin tonight's stream. Okay, I think that's enough. Been quite generous. Okay, everyone, hello. If some of you are not familiar with me, the name is Sanathavihari Bhikkhu. I am a Mexican-American Theravada Buddhist monk at Sarath Chandra Buddhist Center, a Sri Lankan vihara in North Hollywood, California. Yes. I think that's a pretty good brief intro. If you want to know more about me, you can ask later or you can just Google. You can find out. Okay, so today I want to start off by with the practice, just a short meditative practice, about 20, maybe 25 minutes of metta bhavana, loving kindness meditation, the cultivation of universal goodwill, benevolence. So I like to start off with an example that the Buddha himself gives in the suttas, right? So we start off by thinking in the same way, right? In the same way that I like to be well, happy, comfortable, and peaceful, other beings also want to be well, happy, comfortable, and peaceful. That is going to be the basis for this practice. Being able to understand in the same way that we don't want to be harmed in any way, other beings also don't want to be harmed. In the same way that we seek happiness, freedom from suffering, other beings also seek happiness and freedom from suffering. You know what? I want to be free from suffering. I want to be well. I want to be happy. So let other beings who are just like me, let them be free from suffering. Let them be well. Let them be happy. Because that's what I would want. That's what I want. So that's like kind of like the basis for the practice. So today I'm going to share one of the ways that I practice metta bhavana, loving kindness meditation, is by starting with myself. I like to cultivate some self loving kindness, uh, some self goodwill. Just because, for many of us who, are Westerners, we tend to be a little bit um overcritical of ourselves, right? We tend to be a bit judgmental and we think, yeah, maybe other people deserve loving kindness, but not me because I'm different and I'm not worthy of it. So I like to start with oneself, cultivate something, and then we can begin to share it with other beings. So in the beginning, we're going to focus on ourselves, generating loving kindness towards ourselves. For example, you can think, may I be well, happy, and peaceful. Or may I be well, may I be happy, may I be peaceful. And if you have some words that resonate with you and have worked for you when you practice loving kindness meditation, then go ahead and use those words. Sometimes we might find it easier if we, create a mental image. So you can imagine yourself in the past or sometime in the future, being happy, healthy, peaceful, whatever works. And just remembering that this mental recitation of may I be well, happy, comfortable, and peaceful, or whatever imagery or visualization you use, it's just a tool. It's a bridge to get us into that experiential state of loving kindness. So the important thing is that we reach that mental state of loving kindness, and whatever our practice is or method or words or however we wish to get there, that's just convenient. That's the convenient part. That's just kind of the technique that we're using. But the point of this practice is to get into that state of universal goodwill. So we start off with ourselves. May I be well, happy, comfortable, and peaceful. Then after a few moments, maybe a few minutes or whenever you like, you can begin to expand this meditation to include all the beings wherever you're at, in your house, in your room, wherever you find yourself. May all beings in this place, whether large or small, human or non-human, known or unknown, be well, happy, comfortable, and peaceful. Some people find it useful to think about themselves like radiating loving kindness. I find it useful sometimes to think about like a sphere that's encompassing this area, right? May all beings in this sphere, this area, be well, happy, comfortable, and peaceful. Or it may be a very cognitive thing, right? You just tell yourself, may all beings in this place be well, happy, comfortable, and peaceful. Whatever works for you. The important thing is to taste the flavor of loving kindness in the mind. Then after some time generating metta towards all the beings in the room or wherever you find yourself, you can begin to think of all the beings in the neighborhood, right? And then from the neighborhood to the city, from the city to the state, from the state to the country, country to the continent, from the continent to the entire world, and from the world out into the entire universe. May all beings throughout the entire universe, wherever they may be, whether large or small, human or non-human, known or unknown, born or to be born, may all beings without exception be well, happy, comfortable, and peaceful. Or simply, may all beings be well. May all beings be happy. May all beings be peaceful. We can make it very simple or as elaborate as we need to make it in order to get into that state of universal benevolence, universal goodwill. So just like other meditations, I recommend that you find a quiet space free from distractions, that you're seated in a comfortable position with your back straight. And you can close your eyes or leave them open, whatever works for you. And you can begin to withdraw your attention from, the outside world and focus on generating loving kindness. So we're going to practice this for about 20 minutes, a little bit more maybe. At the end of the meditation, you're going to hear me sharing some blessings with all of you. And at that time, you can come out of your metta bhavana, loving kindness meditation. Let's go ahead and practice loving kindness meditation. So now that your mind is calm, body is relaxed, you can bless yourself with your calm mind by the great wisdom and compassion of the Supreme Buddha, truthfulness of his teachings, Dhamma, noble qualities of his perfect disciples, Mahasangha. May you be well, happy, comfortable, and peaceful. Sabitiyo Vivanjantu Saberogo Vinasatu Mate Bhavantwanterayo Sukhi Dikayuko Bhava Bhavetu Sabbe Mangelam Rakantu Sabbe Devata Sabbe Buddha Nupavena Sabbe Dhamma Nubhavena Sabbe Sangha Nubhavena Sada Soti Bhavantuti. Also, through the power of this meritorious action, may you be free from immature company, and may you always have good companions until you attain Nibbana. Imina punya kamena Mame bala samagamo Satam samagemo hotu Yaveni banapatiya. Hello again, Venerables, friends around the world. I hope that you're doing well. I hope that your meditation was well, successful, pleasant. Okay, so once again, Sanathavihari Bhikkhu from Sarath Chandra Buddhist Center, a Sri Lankan vihara in North Hollywood, California, for those of you that may not be familiar with me. So now it's time for the Dhamma talk, but first, homage to the Buddha. Namo tase bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhase. Namo tase bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhase. Namo tase bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhase. So I usually don't plan things. I'm just gonna kind of shoot from the hip. And one thing that came to mind is how we get stuck on things, expectations, how things should be. So I want to connect this with, some of what I've discovered. Nothing new, right? Just discovered for myself. So for the last year and a half, I've been a research assistant at Mount St. Mary's, Los Angeles, in a graduate program, conducting qualitative studies in the realm of mindfulness in higher education. We've conducted one-on-one interviews and focus groups after students taking traditional undergrad courses, weekend courses for undergrad, and also one unit course for clinicians, those studying to be therapists in a graduate program. And going through all of these interviews and focus groups, I've noticed that there's this recurring theme about how things should be, how things should look like, especially when it comes to meditation, in particular, mindfulness meditation. Me personally conducting a lot of these interviews and also going through the data of other interviews that have been conducted by some of my colleagues, a lot of people have some ideas that meditation should be always pleasant, right? You should be blissed out all the time, like a spa date, where everything's so nice. And that's an impediment, because when they sit down and they don't experience that happiness or comfort that they're expecting they're going to get, they think that they're not practicing meditation. They think that they failed somehow, and they take it as a personal failing on their part. So before they even really give themselves a chance to practice, they have already set themselves up for failure. They thought that meditation is supposed to be a certain way, and when it's not that way, then they give up. But that's not the only thing that people come with to meditation with. They think that they're not supposed to have any thoughts. And lo and behold, when they try to practice meditation, what happens? Thoughts arise. Thoughts arise. And because there's thoughts present in the mind when they're practicing meditation, mindfulness, then I must not be practicing mindfulness. I'm a bad meditator. I'm no good at mindfulness. I tried for a couple minutes to meditate, and there was thoughts there. So they give up. It's not for me. Or they think that, you're supposed to be able to meditate for, I don't know, an hour, 30 minutes, a long time. And Maybe they notice that, they can meditate for 5 or 10 minutes, but after that, it becomes so difficult. But, 5, 10 minutes, that's not real meditation. That doesn't really count. So I'm not good at it. So I'm just going to give up. It's not for me. So, or some of the things might, some of the expectations might be very kind of, on the very surface level, like, oh, I can't sit with my legs crossed. I can't sit on the ground. I tried sitting with my legs crossed. I can't cross my legs. I tried sitting on a cushion. It wasn't comfortable. So it's not for me. Because there's this kind of these expectations that we have of how things should be, instead of being open, being curious into how things are. There's a very nice example that the Buddha gives in the suttas. There are things that are painful now, painful in the future. Things that are painful, pleasant now, painful in the future. Things that are painful now, pleasant in the future, and things that are pleasant now and pleasant in the future. So, the formal practice of meditation is one of those things that is pleasant now and pleasant in the future. But for some of us, it might be painful now, and in the future, it might be pleasant. So, we can't let these preconceptions or expectations or our own cravings and desires to escape from the reality of things, that sometimes things are painful, sometimes things are pleasant, sometimes it's a mixture. Sometimes you meditate and it's a very dull, neutral feeling, like you're just wasting your time, like you just zoned out. It's neither painful nor pleasant. That's just the way things are sometimes. In my personal experience, when I began to meditate, it was very painful, very, very painful. Coming to the temple, sitting with my legs crossed on the ground. There was no meditation cushions here. There's just like carpet, and maybe you can grab a small pillow if you like, and you just sit like that. And it was so hard for me. I was doing everything but meditating. I was just trying to push through and fight through the pain and endure, and thinking about what I'm going to do after I get out of here, right? Like, am I going to watch a movie? Am I going to eat? All these other things. And although I forced myself to do it, and I pushed through the pain and all those things, which is not the best way to do it. I had at least enough wisdom to realize that there might be some benefits to it in the future. And I wasn't under the illusion that I was going to be an expert right away, or that I was going to be when I start meditating right away, it was going to be all blissful and, sunshine and rainbows. And I was going to be able to be in perfect concentration samadhi when I first started meditating. So at least I had that going for me. And I think that's a very important key, a very, very, very important insight into the practice of meditation. Because going back to the studies, so many people said, you know what, before we took this course on mindfulness here at the university, I tried. I went on an app, I went on YouTube, I went with some friends, like I was doing yoga, I was doing all these other things, and I tried meditation before, but what it comes down to is like, it wasn't what I expected it to be. So I'm just going to not do it. But their expectations was of permanent happiness, which the Buddha said we can't have. There is no permanent happiness in samsara. That is part of the unsatisfactoriness of samsara, right? That there is no permanent happiness. To think that we can is delusion, ignorance. Michaditi, wrong view. It's this wrong view, this wrong understanding or lack of knowledge that sets us up for failure in so many of our enterprises, right? These expectations, maybe of our partners. You think that your partner is always going to be the way they were on the first date or during your honeymoon or whatever, you know? Your partner always can't be like that. Your partner might be having a bad day. Your partner changes throughout time because they learn so many new things. They've gone through so many new experiences. We can't expect things to be the way we want them to be. If you expect your partner to always be that way, then you're setting yourself up for dukkha. Sooner or later, you will be disappointed. So I think this is really a powerful teaching of being free from expectations, being free from always wanting it our way, and also understanding that there are some things that might be difficult, even unpleasant in the moment or in the near future. But after some time, they'll bring some benefit. And that's obvious with things like exercise, right? In the moment, it's not the most comfortable, pleasant thing. When you first start, it can be very painful, and the following day it can be even worse. Getting an education, right? All that studying, all that homework, all that stuff you need to do to get your degree. It's not the best thing, it's not the most exciting thing in the world to do. But you have this idea that in the future it's gonna be better. And maybe if you're a little bit careful with your nutrition, with what you eat, with your diet, uh, you may not be eating the most tastiest things in the world, right? The most pleasant things, but you know that it's going to give you good health in the long run. So I just wanted to share with you, this information that wasn't really surprising. I kind of had an idea, and the rest of us had an idea that this was one of the common barriers for people practicing meditation, specific mindfulness meditation. Their preconceptions, their expectations of what it's supposed to be like, what it's supposed to look like, what it's supposed to feel like, how long it's supposed to be, right? How you're supposed to sit, how you're supposed to look, where you're supposed to do it. All these things that make it inaccessible and put the person who's trying it in a very, very little narrow field, right? And anything that doesn't fit in there, oh, it's not for me. I'm a failure. Something's gone wrong. Such a narrow view. Not giving themselves the chance, the opportunity to fail. We learn through experience. Failure is a very important um, um, experience that we have in life. I mean, that's how we learned all the things when we were just a baby, right? We touched something and it would hurt us, and then we learned, oh, that's not something we're supposed to touch. We taste something and we wouldn't like the taste. Well, that's something I shouldn't taste. As we grow up, maybe we said things or behaved in certain ways, and then we would be corrected. So we learn through mistakes. That's how we learned how to ride a bicycle, right? How many times did we fall off the bicycle before we learned? We can't expect to jump on the bike the first time and take off, right? And be like one of those pro BMX riders and doing all these stunts. That's just not going to happen. We have to be free from these things. And sometimes we have some very, unrealistic expectations of ourselves as Buddhists, right? I should never be angry as a Buddhist. If I ever get angry, then I'm not a real Buddhist, or my practice hasn't been fruitful because I still get angry. You are not an arahant. You are not a Sama-Sambuddha. You're not a Pacceka Buddha. You're not even a non-returner. Anger will arise due to the presence of the necessary conditions. We become aware of the anger, and we apply the necessary technique, meditation, whatever we want to call it, to eliminate that anger. And we also cultivate skills that help us have a higher threshold so we don't experience anger as much, right? We do our best not to intentionally say things that are harmful. But at the end of the day, something is going to bother us eventually. We can't have this, unrealistic expectation that, well, now because I practice meditation or because I'm a Buddhist or I'm a good Buddhist, I don't get angry, I don't get sad, I don't get scared, I don't get greedy, I don't get lustful. And if any of these things happen, then, I'm a bad person, or I failed, or this meditation technique doesn't really work, or etc. We need to have some sort of wisdom and understanding and acceptance that things are not going to be the way we want them to be. And we're not going to be who we expect ourselves to be, most of the time. Most of the time. When we have these unrealistic expectations of being the perfect son, the perfect teacher, the perfect coworker, the perfect partner, the perfect mother, whatever, you're going to come across many experiences that are going to come in conflict with that idea. And that's going to lead to dukkha, suffering, pain. Okay, I don't want to kind of, talk too much about this because I feel like I thrive the most in dialogue and conversation, and I love getting feedback. I love answering questions. So now is the time for you to go ahead and jump in the chat, put some comments in there, and then we can go ahead and see what happens. That's my favorite part. I think there are already some things here in the chat, in the comments. Let me see if I missed anything. Just a lot of hellos and namos and sadhus. Thank you, thank you. Shadow of label and meditate for 5 hours each day. Very good. Bhante, I remember hearing some stories of you encountering some terrible fear, including things during your time in the military. As a person who can be thrown off by fear, what advice do you give me? Oh, fear. You know what? Actually, to be honest, my time in the military wasn't that bad. I was very fortunate to be at the right place at the right time with the right people. I'm trying to think of a time when I've encountered fear and what have I done. Yeah, I can't think of any examples to give you right now. But, the antidote to fear is loving kindness, metta. So that's the whole basis of the Karaniya Metta Sutta. If we, if we look into the story or the account of why we have the Karaniya Metta Sutta, we'll see that there was a group of monks who went out to practice meditation in the forest, and they were sitting under these trees. But unbeknownst to them, the tree deities, the tree spirits, kind of got upset with the monks because they were like a guest who overstayed the welcome. And they began to scare the monks and haunt them, and the monks got scared. They had a lot of fear, and they left, and they came back to where the Buddha was, and the Buddha said, "Hey, you monks, you're supposed to be over there in that forest meditating. Why did you come back so soon?" And they said, "Well, while we were there, we got scared. We had a lot of fear." And the Buddha said, "No worries. I'm going to teach you meditation and to overcome fear." And that's when he gave them the discourse of the Karaniya Metta Sutta, the loving kindness meditation. So the monks went back there. They practiced loving kindness meditation, and they overcame their fear. And the tree deities actually became protectors of the monks and made sure that they had a very pleasant meditation retreat in the forest. So one way that you can overcome fear is by practicing goodwill, loving kindness towards all beings. Instead of being scared of being scared of others, you can recognize that they're also seeking happiness. You can have goodwill towards them. May they be well, happy, comfortable, and peaceful. I hope that helps. If not, you're free to ask again. You can make another follow-up question. Medical professionals talk down the placebo effect of eating healthy, that it doesn't make people stronger. I'm not sure. Rahul, hey Bhante, I find myself being very goal-orientated with meditation. Do you have any tips to letting go of expectations while sitting? So goals are fine, just have a realistic perspective on the outcome of it, and a realistic expectation of when that goal will be achieved also, right? So goals are perfect. We're all shooting for nibbana. We're all shooting for the end of suffering. Goals are encouraged. But being unrealistically fixed on that goal, or like when that goal will be achieved or how it will be achieved, is going to bring you in conflict with the reality of things. That things are going to take a long time, and they're going to require more work than you need. And things are not, some meditation, sometimes I sit down to meditate and I might just be very sleepy, and I'm just fighting the drowsiness the whole time. Sometimes, maybe I had too much coffee and I just feel that whole like being wired the whole time, sometimes, maybe like my coursework, I'm thinking about my homework or something, because I'm late on an assignment or something like that. And that's just the way sometimes meditation is. Sometimes it's just like that. Although my goal was to sit down and be peaceful and, to have a good meditation, but it didn't turn out that way. And that's okay, because I stuck to my routine. I'm sticking to my goal. I'm still working towards that goal. Although in the moment, I haven't reached the level that I wanted to. So I think just kind of like dealing with this, maybe being kind of obsessed with goals or very goal driven, is just to make sure you frame it, you properly frame it. Like I have a goal for this to happen in my meditation. I don't know, whatever it is you're looking for, but give yourself the leeway, give yourself maybe like 6 months, a year, and know that every session that you do it is not an accurate representation of the long-term progress you've made so far, because some days it's just not going to happen, so just try to properly contextualize, the path towards the goal. Scott Barrel, is your study related to mental health? That's something else I've done on the side. So I have done research on the effects of mindfulness meditation on mental health. The one I was talking about right now was strictly about introducing mindfulness practices, not only formal meditation, but other kind of mindfulness practices like walking or, other physical ways to practice mindfulness. Introducing it into higher education for undergrads and graduate students, and seeing, what they have to say about it. If they find it useful, if they don't, what did they like about the course, what they didn't like about it, if they found any benefits, or just, seeing what they say about it. Yes, but Scott, if you have any particular questions about related to mental health, any of the research that I've done, then you can go ahead and put it in there, and I'll see if I have anything to contribute. Karen says, thank you, Bhante. What inspired you to become a monk? Many things. I think the first thing that inspired me to become a monk was just the suttas themselves. I started off just reading the suttas, and it was very powerful, and I felt, that they resonated with me in a deep connection to the words of the Buddha and the other arahants and other beings that are in the suttas. So one thing was the suttas, and another thing was the monks in this community that I'm at, South China Buddhist Center, I saw how the monks were living their life and how they were so compassionate and caring and how they were really dedicated to the Dhamma. And I was like, man, that would be nice, to to be around people like that all the time. And then another one was my late teacher, Dr. Bhante Puniji. He gave a talk when I was still a layperson, and that kind of really kind of like more on the cognitive side kind of made me start thinking about, oh yeah, maybe becoming a monk is something that I can consider, right? Keep an open mind to, although I wasn't very decided on it yet. And then another thing was just the benefits of my own formal meditation practice and going on retreats and wanting to live more of that kind of life. So it's like the sutta, the monks that I knew, the monks that the Bhante Puniji's, one of his sermons that he gave, all these things came together. And with, all these different factors coming together, like to me, it just made more sense to live this kind of lifestyle. I don't have like a dramatic story or any cool origin story. It's just like all these little drops were filling up the cup, and then eventually the cup spilled over, and I was like, oh yeah, time to be a monk now. Is smooth peanut butter and allowable for monastics? I myself, I was weird saying that I myself, don't take anything in the afternoon. If anything, I might take some juice, some liquids, but they don't have too much pulp. I avoid eating anything at all in the afternoon. Sometimes when I go to other temples, like for special ceremonies, maybe once or twice a year, I'll have some dark chocolate. But my best policy is just to avoid eating, because then you don't get hungry in the afternoon. Later, you just get used to not eating anymore. But I understand that people have certain medical conditions. They might need to take something. Even monastics are not free from the biology of this body. But yeah, I wouldn't. I myself try to avoid consuming anything. Manal, dear Bhante, I've reflected on the word happiness before. How would you define the state of happiness? Well, people nowadays use it as pleasure, right? So like I think in the common way people use like happiness is something that is very pleasurable or exciting. But when we talk about happiness, in the Dhamma, we're talking about freedom from suffering, basically. That's the highest happiness, to be free from dukkha, right? Whatever ways dukkha has many dimensions to it, right? Unsatisfactoriness, pain, suffering, to be free from all of that. That is the highest happiness, but on a more kind of like everyday kind of level, we can think about happiness is those wholesome states of mind. So anytime there's a wholesome state of mind, any kusala dhamma, right? Or we can say kusala vitaka, anything like that, well, that's happiness. And it's a very serene, right? Serene kind of happiness, tranquil, relaxed, calm kind of happiness. Because it's a happiness of letting go, of not clinging, and of not desiring, of not lusting and not hating, and it's like a relief. At least in my experience, when it's a relief, that's kind of how I would explain experientially happiness, a relief, a big feeling of relief. It is recognized that in loving kindness meditation, one may meditate on others' peacefulness. But if the opposite of happiness is sadness, then wonder if that should be included for this meditation practice onto others. So fear and anger are the opposites of loving kindness. From some of the formulations that we see, they place fear and anger as the opposites of loving kindness. Opposite of happiness is sadness. Of happiness is sadness. Yeah, domanassa, right? We can say domanassa would be the opposite of dukkha, and domanassa would be like depression or sadness, then I wonder it should be included in the meditation practice. So when we practice metta, at least when we're in the first Brahma Vihara, when we're just only doing a very strict metta, loving kindness meditation, we focus on the well-being of others. May they be well, right? That is the emphasis of the metta, the first Brahma Vihara. Then when we move on to like include karuna, compassion, is when we start to consider maybe the sadness and the pain and the struggles and the suffering of other beings, but we focus on the potential that they can be free from it, right? Kind of maybe like a doctor sees a patient with a certain disease, but he doesn't focus on the disease. He focuses on that healing part of that person, right? That person has the ability to overcome that sickness. So actually, the practice of compassion is a joyful one. Compassion, to be compassionate feels good. Um, so we don't focus necessarily. It's not a morbid practice of taking in all that suffering and just keeping it, but recognizing that there is suffering, but also recognizing that beings can be free from it. That potential is there. Scott Bartel, I've had big challenges with mental health issues. The Dhamma surely is the most powerful medicine. I find that it is incredibly challenging to stay or increase mental health in an environment which is not conducive to mental health. Any comments? So yes, our mental health is definitely highly influenced by our environment, right? And I can't give any definitive things because everyone has different thresholds. Everyone has different perceptions of what's tolerable and what's pleasant and what's good for them and what's bad. But if you find yourself in an environment in which your mental health keeps declining and declining and declining and declining, that might be a good indication that that you need to leave the environment, or something in the environment can be changed if at all possible, because many times things in the environment are beyond our control and we can't have any influence over them. So then we have to wander alone like a rhinoceros horn, right? Like the sutta, the rhinoceros horn sutta. If you can't find any good friends, then it's best to walk alone, like the horn on a rhinoceros, to be alone. So yes, it is very important that we have a conducive environment, and that's one of the reasons, or one of the main reasons, to practice monasticism, right? To be in an environment with people who think similarly and are striving for the same thing, and kind of like it's a more peaceful place. It's a controlled environment to a certain degree, as much as we can control environments. So yes, definitely, we need to be very mindful and about how the environment is contributing to our mental health, both for the detriment and the benefit of our mental health. Any other questions? Any other comments? I can still stay on for a few more minutes. I think it's usually an hour, but 4 or 5 minutes over, no problem. Give you some time to put something in the chat if you like. Okay, seems like everyone is good. Wonderful session. Thank you, Sood. Thank you to everyone. Thank you to all the venerables. I know there's some watching us live from Empty Cloud. Thank you so much. I'd like to also thank Bhante Sudaso and Ayasoma for this opportunity. I will keep joining you until they come back every Thursday, except for the 17th. November 17th. That Thursday, I won't be here, but all the other Thursdays until December 1st, I will be here every Thursday. And, I like to keep it open. So if some of you follow me on social media, or you have my email or any other way, and you have any topics that you like to suggest for me to cover on one of these Thursdays, go ahead and shoot me an email, shoot me a message on Facebook or Instagram, whatever you follow me, and I'll take it into consideration. So if you have any topics that you'd want to get my personal, advice or information from, then go ahead and send me a message and I'll take it into consideration, because I really love conversation. I really, I don't like to preach. I like to dialogue. So please give me that opportunity and find me. And you can find me as Sanathavihari Bhikkhu, Los Angeles Sanathavihari Bhikkhu, or just put Sanathavihari Bhikkhu and everything comes up real quick in a Google search. Okay, everyone, wherever you are, hope you have a good day, good evening, good night, good morning. May you be well, happy, comfortable, and peaceful. Suki Hotu. Good night. Goodbye.